So what is the point of doing all this great stuff here as a big OEM if we don't include the supply chain? So it's really, we might spend £500,000 on a virtual reality cave, working with 3D CAD for everything, and then we say to our supply chain, right, we want you to work with this 3D CAD model. Well, I can only work with 2D CAD. I haven't got the infrastructure to do it. Bit of a waste of time, really. So very, very important that you include the supply chain. So the second thing is, I'm going to go right back to some of the first visionaries behind Industry 4.0 and look at what they said. And there's a guy called Dr. Siegfried Dees from Bosch. And what he said was the raw material in the future will hold all the information within it for its manufacturing process, its logistic, and what part it plays in the final product. Could be a car or something like that. So I've tried to show that here in this presentation. So if you can imagine your raw material having something like an RFID tag built into it. So RFID can hold data. You can change that data very easily. You can also write to RFID tags as well as read from them, and you don't need line of sight. So if you can imagine all that raw data is in the raw material, as it goes through its manufacturing process, the raw material will tell the machine what to do to it, whereas today the machine defines what to do to the product. Now, the reason we might want to swap that around is because then every product could be different. So every product coming out of that machine could be different shape, different colour, different format, different material even. And this gives us that challenge of mass customisation that every product, and it increases the value of the product as well. So the other challenge of customisation, if you think about it, if every product is different, imagine the stock levels, imagine the work in progress. It could cost you a lot of money if every product is different. So this is where connectivity and communications comes in. So if you've got true connectivity from the machines here all the way through your supply chain, your flexible machines here could actually feed information back into the supply chain and tell the supply chain what to make and when we need it by. And all the time you've got connectivity going back to say when it's going to be available. It could also pass information into its logistics. So that machine here knows exactly when that part's going to arrive. So if there's a delay, then because the machine's flexible, it could make something else while it's waiting for that part. So it's quite visionary. It's a long way off. This isn't going to happen overnight. But it's one important part that a lot of companies forget about, that you've got to include the supply chain. And it's important that the SMEs understand and start working towards that long-term vision, because it comes from both sides, really. And it can be quite expensive if you get it wrong. So this is why a lot of the SMEs and the small companies that I work with, I try to engage them with catapult centres to de-risk some of those innovations. So a lot of big companies that I work with say to me, right, Alan, where do we start? And I say, well, depends on your situation, but there's 4 cornerstones to what I call the digital enterprise platform. And the first one is having flexible manufacturing environment. It could be robotics, it could be automation, and that connectivity across different factories around the world. So that's important. The second one is engaging with the supply chain. Really important that you do that. Thirdly, use of virtual reality. So in our factory in Congleton, we invested £250,000 into a virtual reality cave. And the reason we did that initially was we noticed that our manufacturing goes from sort of left to right, but our stores are down here. So it ends up in the wrong place. Now, we didn't want to stop all the machines, turn it all around, only to find it doesn't fit or it doesn't work, it doesn't fit into our vision. So what we've done, we invested this £250,000 in a virtual reality cave. We laser scanned the whole factory, so all the girders, all the machinery, all the people even, and we put that into the virtual model. So now we can virtually move the factory around without affecting the production to see if it will fit. And then we found, well, we can use this for product design as well. So now all our products are actually developed in the virtual world. So 3 years ago, it took 9 physical prototypes to get to the final product of a piece part for our drives. Now we're down to 3 physical prototypes because the rest are done in the virtual world. So therefore we're bringing products to the market a lot quicker. We also 3D printers as well. Rather than going to the supply chain, we can make some of those prototypes ourselves by using 3D printers. So we're accelerating that innovation cycle. And the other use we found for it, which we hadn't considered really, is ergonomics. So now we still have a number of people working in cells, assembling things. So we use a tool called Jack and Jill, male and female skeletons. And we can actually analyse the movement of people within a cell, and we can change the cell environment virtually to suit their height or their strength. And we can actually see the effect on their skeleton, so it comes up in red if they're stretching too far. So we can move things around to make sure that environment is as safe as possible for those individuals. So you think, well, that sounds fantastic from a health and safety point of view. But the other benefit was, and we never considered this at all, was it changes the culture of the people. So rather than being averse to robotics and automation, they're starting to think, well, actually, this makes sense. It's going to help me in my manufacturing process, my day-to-day job. And if you think about it, if you're an operator doing the same thing day in, day out, and then you spend a day in the virtual reality cave looking at ergonomics, you're going to go home that night and tell your family what you've been doing that day. So it changes the culture of the people working in this environment. And we never considered that being a value initially. But now we see it's a great value and really important because you're bringing the staff along with this digitalisation vision. They're embracing digitalisation. And last but not least is communications. And what I mean by that is machine-to-machine communications, so we can remove any bottlenecks. I mean shop floor to office environment communication, so we can manufacture to order. And then also extend that communications into the supply chain, so we reduce the amount of stock that we hold. And for many companies, you can start here with virtualisation, you could look at communications. It's entirely up to you as to where the first places to start are. I think the easiest one for me is communications, because I say to most of these companies, just walk down your factory, look at all your machines, and ask yourself the question, how many of these machines have the capability of becoming part of the Internet of Things? How many have an Ethernet interface or a wireless access point? And you find there's some old machines, might be 20 or 30 years old, they don't have that connectivity. You might find some new ones do. So then develop a strategy around that. Do you actually retrofit the old machines so they have that connectivity? Is it important? Any new machines, make sure you specify it so you've got a common interface that actually communicates from machine to machine. I think that's quite an easy one to start developing over a period of time.